Hi guys, Hiroshi here. Before I begin the main topic for this video, I'd like to point out that I'm using a new background in an attempt to set up some semblance of a brand identity for this channel. I decided to go for a white and gray theme because I've always personally loved these light neutral colors, and they're also in line with my main nation, Brandgate. It also allows things to be a bit more centered on the screen and leaves room for splicing in larger images. But I'm curious as to what your opinion is, so I'd appreciate it if you would leave a comment telling me which background you prefer, this one or the one I was using before. Now that I've got that out of the way, let's get into the main topic for this video. Cardfight Vanguard has been around for a little over a decade now, so there's a lot of history behind it, and there have been a lot of iconic cards released since then. This plays a large role into what encounter cards are, and their purpose within both the lore and the game itself. Now before I get into explaining what encounter cards actually are in terms of like gameplay and all that, it's important for us to understand why they even exist in the first place. So I'm going to be starting with explaining things from the perspective of the official lore. If you got into overdress since the very get-go, you would know that the folks over at Bushiroad have gone really ham into the story behind the card game. Yes, Cardfight Vanguard actually has a story behind literally every unit, and the rabbit hole goes pretty deep. Now, I've never dived super deep into the lore myself, but from what I know, they're going all out with the lore in overdress, as it was the first tool they used to market the new era. On top of that, they started creating official online novels in Japan, and are going to be officially releasing them in the West as well, translated and all, on the official Vanguard website on May 21st, 2021, which is also the same day the first overdress booster box will release in the West. And I don't think that this is a coincidence. I don't think that they've ever gone to these lengths to get the lore into the fans' hands in the past, so it's not only much appreciated, but is also indicative of how they want to implement the game design moving forward. That is, it is most likely that each new main booster set is somehow going to be tied into the lore of the official online novels themselves, which means that we'll be getting a really cool thematic background behind each set. Now that's pretty dope. Alright, so the official title of the recent novel is The Elderly Densetsu no Kaiko, which can be translated as The Elderly Encounter with a Legend. And the story itself is not some side gig. It's completely tied into the lore of the Chakravarti era, so it's pretty damn legit. And I honestly can't wait for it to come out in the West. Also, the title of the novel is actually the same title shared by DBTO2 itself, at least in Japanese, Densetsu no Kaiko, which is the next overdress booster box if you didn't know. Now, this is also why Dragonic Overlord and Phantom Blaster Dragon, among some other iconic old units, will make a return in this set, as they share the spotlight in the recent novel. Yeah, so you can already see the connection between the novel and the booster box right from the get-go. Now, this is some pretty cool stuff. Also, the lore is written by Ito Akira, who is the author of the original Cardfight Vanguard manga, and I believe that he worked on the G-series manga as well. So we know that the lore is going to be pretty in line with Vanguard's vision, at least from the story perspective. And this pretty much means that we don't really have to worry about some Boruto-like mess. I'm sorry, Boruto fans, but it is how it is. Now, what you see before you are Dragonic Overlord and Phantom Blaster Dragon, and these two are examples of encounter cards. The encounter part comes from the Kaiko part of the novel's title, which in Japanese aptly means encounter. Now, I know you're thinking that the illustrations look pretty freaking cool, but they actually went pretty Giga Brain mode on this one. Now, if you look closely, you can see that the edges of the cards look kinda craggy or rocky, and this was done on purpose as they're meant to look like rocky slabs. This is because the whole encounter thing goes beyond a simple gimmicky naming scheme. It's actually the name of a phenomena that occurred in the lore. Now, the illustrations are made to show what the units looked like when they were embroiled in the middle of a conflict 3,000 years ago. So it's basically like you're peering into the past through some sort of portal or vision through a rock slab, which is allowing you to re-encounter legendary units from more ancient times. Now, I think you're starting to understand where the whole encounter thing comes into play, right? The official PowerPoint slide over here says, going back 3,000 years in time, the popular units return as recorded encounter cards. And the recorded part is most likely referring to how the illustration looks like a snapshot of a specific moment in which Dragonic Overlord and Phantom Blaster Dragon were in the middle of a heated battle, frozen in time within a rock slab. this visual design concept actually applies to all encounter cards and not just the two big bad dragons over here. And that brings me to the next slide. Now, as you can see, the Harlem also got the Rocky Slab treatment, which again means that this whole encounter concept will apply to every returning old unit. This basically means that we're going to be getting this really cool thematic design concept where it looks like you're peering through a looking glass for every encounter card. And this is something I'm totally on board for, because it'd be one thing if they did it for every card, but the cards feel special because it's only the encounter cards that are getting this type of, I guess, illustrative thematic concept put onto them. So, with all of that explained, I'm finally ready to answer the question, what are encounter cards? Do they have special effects? Do they have a special place on the field? And can they only be played when specific prerequisites are met? Honestly, they're nothing too special. The most special thing about them is that they're basically just nostalgic cards, like cards that appeared in the previous Vanguard prior to overdress. But if you're talking about their actual impact on the game, they're no different from any other unit except for the fact that they belong to both a clan and a nation. So basically, you can think of an encounter card as simply being a regular unit that, again, belongs to both a clan and a nation, which you can see on little old Nehalem over here. Nothing more, nothing less. That's just it. They just belong to a clan and a nation. Their main purpose is to play a role in Premium Standard, but of course, they are completely viable in Standard as well. For example, let's say that there is a card that specifically only lets you search for a Royal Paladin card from your deck. And let's also say that there is another separate card that specifically only lets you search for a card that says it's part of the Keter Sanctuary Nation. Encounter cards in this scenario would be the only cards that could be targeted within both scenarios. Also, they won't be limited to any kind of special type of rarity like encounter rare or something like that. They'll be subject to the same rarity as other cards, like common, single rare, double, triple rare, you know, the whole 10 yards. Now, for some final points. So far, they've only revealed 3 encounter cards in the PowerPoint slides, so Dragonic Overlord, Phantom Blaster Dragon, and Nehalem. But they said that they will reveal more over time. Now, presumably, this is just my assumption, but there will at the very least be 8 total encounter cards in DBTO2 to fit into a ride line for both Dragonic Overlord and Phantom Blaster Dragon. But, and I say this all the time, we can only wait and see. Also, according to Moriketa, the frequency in which we will be able to re-encounter past units will be very rare. In this slide over here, you can see at the bottom that it says the next one will be in March of 2022, which, you know, it's pretty far away. And I find that this is a very healthy method to bring back some nostalgia without it inundating overdress. I mean, after all, overdress is meant to be a departure from all of that, as V-Era kind of made the mistake of literally only being nostalgia baiting until the very end. And if they were to reprint old cards like No Tomorrow in overdress like they did with V-Era, the whole 3,000 years into the future thing would basically be a sack of baloney. And that's it. Encounter card is just the fancy name for a returning old unit that belongs to both a clan and a nation. And with that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever I upload a new video. My name is Hiroshi, and I'll see you in the next one. じゃあねー。